just explosive growth with the relocation of the Dallas Cowboys there, Toyota North America moving there, and many, many other large firms that are going there. I think there's like 60 Fortune 1000 firms now looking at the Frisco area. But anyway, with this sort of explosive growth, the city of Frisco wanted a R1 research university, so a research university partnership, because they saw that sort of opportunity for research support, technology transfer, whatever, but also the need to develop talent and a talent pipeline for all these companies that were going to be moving in.
My name is Dr. Mark Williams. Welcome to my masterclass. I have a Ph.D. in education from West Virginia University. I have a master's in sport management and an MBA from the University of Massachusetts. I even have an undergraduate degree in sociology from William Patterson University. And currently, I'm the global scholar practitioner at HBCU, Florida Memorial University. But I also work for 3 of the largest sports brands in the world, Reebok, Champ Sports, and Foot Action. But I can't go anywhere without my Jordan 1s. Join me and my guests as we explore their rise to the top through adversity and challenges. It's time to help you find a hero in you. Welcome to my masterclass. Good day, everyone. We're back here on Dr. Mark's Masterclass podcast on the MAP Esports Podcast Network. I've got a great friend of mine here today. I got to give a big shout out to Innovation Media Enterprises, C and Aaron. Thank you for holding me down. And my man, you know who he is. Gage on the Wheels of Steel, who's my sound engineer holding me down today. And my beautiful wife. Yes, I'm married. Yes, since we last talked, I was not married, but now I am married. My beautiful wife, Peru, is here. Baby, come over here. Say something to them in Mandarin. Tell them what's up. Say what's up to everybody. Take off the mask. Let them see your beautiful face. Tell them who you are. Say something in Mandarin to them.
Everything in Mandarin?
Yeah, say something in Mandarin. Say what's up, everybody.
大家好，我是博士马克的妻子。大家好。
Tell them, everybody, what did you just say?
I just said hello, everyone. Said I'm Dr. Mark's wife, and I think I just said that. I forgot, actually.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
See, I put her on the spot. She didn't know I was going to say that. But I have my special guest. He's over here talking to my wife in Mandarin. But obviously, I understand a little bit what he's saying. But I wanted to put them both on the spot by explaining what they said. Because a lot of times when you talk on these shows, you're speaking one language. And a lot of times, Americans, we speak, English and Spanish. And then you might find some of us that speak German and maybe Mandarin and some other languages. But it's rare that you hear someone coming on the show that said they have a wife or a spouse or a significant other or something that said they speak Mandarin. And we want to be global. Especially, this is MAP Esports Podcast Network. We're talking about esports. Esports is not just in the United States. It's global, my friends. Isn't it, young man? Put him on the spot, too, over here. I got a 6th grader in here who's going to also be, he's also part of my special guest list here today as well. So anyone that's inside this room, they're game to be on the air. Okay, so you good with that? He said, yeah, he's cool. Look at him. He's not nervous. His dad's a professor, so he knows how to conduct himself and comport himself. But I just want to let everybody know that we still are doing this thing here, practicing social distancing, and my wife wants me to make sure I have my mask on all the time, like this, and make sure my nose is up here, and I've got it just like that. But because I'm amongst friends, and I'm pretty far away from everybody, I cannot wear my mask, but I'm encouraging you to wear yours. We're still in that state. We're still in that phase, my friends. We still have got to protect ourselves and protect the people around you. This is not a political issue, my friends. This is a safety issue. Please wear your mask and practice social distancing and use your sanitizer. Wash your hands. Simple things, but we got to still remind you. I'm going to remind you anyway. But today, we have a dear friend of mine, an educator like myself, but he's not just a regular educator. He's a pretty cool educator. He's not one of those guys that's going to sit there in class and make you sit there and read and PowerPoint you to death and you're like, oh my God, he is so boring. No, he's not like that. He's at UNT Frisco, one of the most innovative campuses in the United States, okay? And I've been to 500 plus campuses. If I'm saying it's an innovative campus, it's an innovative campus. And he gave me a tour of this amazing facility that I went probably about a year ago now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they even have a podcast studio. We might even have to do our show from there one day. But the other day, I got a chance to go to one of his colleagues and one of my dear friends who also was on the show, Dr. Bob here. We came to his class the other day, and it was amazing. And my wife saw it for the first time, and she was just blown away by the building. And we got to get over there. But let's let everybody know, who do I have in the studio with me today? I have a dear friend of mine, Dr. Clint Purtell. He is the Director of External Relations at UNT Frisco, which is University of North Texas, and Frisco, that's another area. It's the Silicon Valley of esports, my friends. That's where it's at, and Clint's going to talk a little bit about that as well. I call him Clint. You got to call him Dr. Clint, okay? If you're teaching, if you're a student trying to go to class, you call him Doc, all right? I'm going to call him Clint because that's my man. But I'm going to also be professional and call him Dr. Clint Patel today. How about that? He's also Assistant Professor of Management and Entrepreneurship. He also has a career. He's not just, again, what makes him special, he's not just a professor, but he's also a practitioner. He comes from corporate America, worked for Southwest Airlines as well. He also worked for TCU, the Professor of Supply Chain Management. And he was educated at one of the best business schools and best schools in the country at Northwestern University, and got his Ph.D. from Oklahoma State University. My dear friend, Doc, what's up, man?
Man, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me in, Doc. I appreciate it. What you got, too, Doc? What's up, Doc?
Man, you brought your son.
I brought my bruiser, my football bruiser. Yeah, 12-year-old, 150-pound Texas-bred football player. That's what I brought.
You just heard that. He said that pretty quickly. Texas-bred football player, which means, it's a religion down here, guys. I grew up in Jersey. We're good in track and wrestling, and nothing like Texas football. And you said he's a bruiser.
He's a bruiser. We're on a run for a Super Bowl right now in the Frisco Football League. And this man, he's put some fear. He's put the fear of who in a lot of young players who see him coming. He's a lead blocker and a defensive end. And he's doing it right. He's got big dreams. J.J. Watt's his man right now. He wants to be a J.J. Watt.
You hit folks?
Yeah, he likes to hit.
Come over here for a second. Tell everybody. Look into that camera. Tell everybody your name.
My name's Chip. Chip Purtell.
Yeah. You like to hit people? Yeah. Legally, right? Yeah. And did they get back up when you hit them?
Some stay down.
Some stay down. Okay. When he says that, you don't want to mess with this kid, okay? Don't want to mess with him. So what do you want to do when you graduate, when you get to college? High school first. Where do you want to go to college?
I was thinking of Clemson, Oklahoma, or North Texas.
So I can help him with that. So we're going to talk to you later about that with Clemson, because I know Dabo, okay? And I know the president of Clemson. Yes, that's my man. So we got one here from Clemson. He's 12 years old. Okay, so my dear friend is the president of Clemson University. Yes, we're going to send a young man to you. Okay, so he's going to come down, see Dabo in the next year or so, and we will see what happens in the next 5 to 7 years. Okay. So say hi to everybody.
He's going to play at Kyler Murray's home place, Allen High School. That's where he's headed. So we'll see.
Wow, that's exciting.
The big man.
I'm looking forward to hearing great things about you, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Okay. He also is a pretty good esports player too. We're going to talk about that later as well. And like I said, I didn't know what I was going to introduce him. I had no idea. I didn't even know he's a bruiser. Well, all I know is this: that he's got his proud daddy right in front of me. Brother, tell us about your journey, man. How did you know that you were going to be in academia? After coming from corporate America and graduating from one of the best schools in the nation in business, what was that transition like?
Man, that's a great question. I'd say it started at a very young age. So I was a 2-time preacher's kid. Both mom and dad were Methodist ministers, and so I grew up in the church, and raised to be a servant leader. Always loved to give back and help others. But I found myself kind of being the person that people would come to ask questions and what should I do here? What should I do there? Kind of thought I had a calling towards ministry for a little while. But then when I saw what my mom and dad went through, I'm like, I don't think I want to be a preacher these days, Decided to go into business. Had a great run in business, worked for companies like Cracker Barrel, American Airlines, Dr. Pepper, Cadbury, Schweppes, Southwest Airlines, and had a great run. But I love to learn. One of my greatest fears is that I'm going to wither away to nothing because I don't know anything anymore. And I read a great quote one time. The only thing that can't be taken away from you anymore is your education. And so for me, it's about learning more. But when you get to a certain point in your career, as you know, it's about giving back, and it's about helping others achieve that level of knowledge and inspiring them to be greater. And I had a chance to do that with TCU as well as with Oklahoma State as I was going through that program. And, when you see those eyes light up, and whatnot, when I was in industry helping people achieve their career, set career goals and achieve them, there's something rewarding in that. Even when when you're a director and you help somebody else become a director and maybe they make vice president before you, seeing them achieve their goals and being a part of their journey is pretty awesome. You get to do that every day in the classroom, and at UNT with, working with a lot of, disadvantaged students, first generation students, and that sort of thing. It makes you sleep well at night, and you get up in the morning excited to go to work. And so, my calling towards academia, that's where it's at. I think these days, I love my job.
So tell us, you talked about being a preacher's kid. And what was it like growing up in a household where you had expectations of living a life a certain kind of way, and then maybe your peers and the adults around you and your relatives looked at you as you're the standard, you have to act a certain way? Did you feel a lot of pressure growing up?
There was some. I had a couple of great parents, though, that raised me with love and taught me respect. My great grandmother, a proud Choctaw lady, was very influential in my life and taught me to respect my elders and to be humble, with everything I could, but to be a leader. And if I was going to put try to do something, be the best at whatever I tried to do. And so I kind of grew up with those, sorts of things instilled in me. Growing up as a preacher's kid, especially when they're both preachers, it's tough because in the Methodist Church, you move around a lot. A lot of preachers' kids in different religions move around a lot, and for me, it was typically small town, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, when I was kind of, my son's age and we would move around, there's a lot of bullying, that would go on until you get to about high school and you start to hit puberty, and you start to get a little bit bigger. You start to play some football and whatnot, and then all of a sudden you're the fresh meat moving into the small Oklahoma town, right? And so things kind of turned around. But I'll tell you what, Mark, I wore it as a badge of honor because a lot of people when you're younger, they don't quite understand it, but you do end up becoming a role model, and I think there's a lack of those today, right. Especially positive influence role models. Mm-hmm. It's amazing, Mark, that people come up to me now that I'm an adult, I'm older, and they say, you know what, I just remember back and when we would invite you to those parties and you would come, but you'd be cool, you wouldn't do the things everybody else was doing, right. You'd be the guy that would drive people home, or whatever it was. Now, not to say I didn't, have my own Rumble, back in the day, I mean, there were times when I probably did some things I probably shouldn't have, but I always tried to be a good role model for others, and so, growing up a preacher's kid, the nice part about that, Mark, is sometimes it's a get out of jail free card. There were some times, that I got in a pinch, whether it was with the law, doing something stupid like racing down Main Street, or whatever.
Whenever you do something bad, you remember your father said he did some bad stuff too.
That's right. Whenever, in small town Oklahoma, you get in a little fisticuffs, with some of the other guys, and the cops come around. That when they ask the preacher's kid, hey, what's going on here? You say, well, Mr. Officer, I was trying to just demonstrate to these men that it's time to go home. We need to go home for the evening before curfew, whatnot. So usually I had to get out of jail free card. So there were some advantages to it.
That's cool. That's good stuff, man. And then so when you were growing up, because I think you and I are similar ages, what was it like in terms of I know our parents used to make us go outside and play, and now young people, they go out and play, as demonstrated by your son, but they also are playing video games a lot now. Mm-hmm. When we were younger, when I was growing up, television was the big thing, okay? What kind of games did you play? I know we had arcades. That was a big deal back in the day. What kind of games did you play when you were growing up?
Man, so back in my day, we had gone out of Pong. We were in the early stage Ataris. So Atari was coming, and we got into the Atari 7200 or something like that, right? Yeah, Sega. Yeah. Sega was big, right? The Sega Genesis, right? And then Nintendo was coming on, it was coming on stage. So that was kind of my day and time. I got big into computer games. Okay. So, actual keyboard, good old computer stuff back before it, kind of took its revolution. But that's kind of, what I was about. And I was big into flight simulators, and that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. So I was more into the warfare combat, sort of games. Okay.
Did you think that you wanted to be in a pilot at one point?
I did. You know, I grew up in the era of Top Gun. I wanted to be Maverick.
Maverick, yes.
I wanted to be Maverick.
Yes,
I wanted to fly an F-14, you know, and that was my mission. In fact, had a appointment nomination to the Naval Academy.
What?
Senior year of high school, last game, broke my back.
Oh, my goodness.
And so my goal was to fly F-14s and play football at the Naval Academy. And God had different plans for me, you know, so yeah.
That's what happens. You watch the movie Top Gun, you have all these amazing dreams, and very interesting movie, and one of my favorite movies of all time. And but yeah, so as you decided to go from Oklahoma to Northwestern, how did you get out to Chicago? How did you get out to?
Yeah, well, it was actually by way of Nashville, and so straight out of school, I went to Nashville, Tennessee, worked for a publishing company there for a very short time, kind of a scholarship payback sort of deal, and then went to work immediately for Cracker Barrel, and was part of kind of a turnaround team for them. While I was there, did a master's degree at Belmont University in Nashville. My wife was going to Middle Tennessee. She played softball at Lipscomb University.
Okay.
And then when she finished, I started my program at Belmont. She started her master's at MTSU. It actually wasn't until we came here. I did Northwestern part-time while I was working here.
Wow.
And so, and absolutely loved it, man. There's nothing more like waking up on that lake, walking that track, you know, but that's how I ended up there. Anyway, in fact, Mark, it was when I went back to Northwestern and finished that program that I decided, you know what, it's time to break the golden handcuffs. You know, you get those golden handcuffs in industry. You know, you got a family of 5. It's time to break the golden handcuffs, take that leap of faith. I'm being called to teach. I got to go get that Ph.D. And it was after I got out of Northwestern, I'm like, it's time to go get the Ph.D. And Oklahoma State was where it was at.
Okay, we're going to stop right here for a second. Before we go on further, I'm going to stop it here for a break. But we're going to go back to, he just said he had a family of 5, okay? We're going to stop on that, to let that marinate for a second, because I forgot that, okay? But I want to remind everyone we're listening to Dr. Mark's Masterclass podcast on the MAP Esports Podcast Network, and powered by, of course, Innovation Media Enterprises. Aaron and Sia, thank you for holding me down. Great producers. And my man, Gage on the Wheels of Steel. You know what the Wheels of Steel is? Turntables. You know what turntables are? Oh, my God. My man, pop culture references. This young man doesn't know. We're going to have to school him on what
we got to get
skills are.
2 turntables and a microphone. Yes. That's what we need.
Yeah. I think your dad's about to spit some bars over here. Okay.
I spit fire on the mic. I do.
Oh, my man. I'm so sorry. So, listen, we don't plan this. This is how tight we are. I don't talk to Clint all the time, but when we talk, we talk. I remember about 3 months ago, you were trying to get in touch with me.
Yep.
And I was trying to get in touch with you.
Oh, it was crazy.
And there was something wrong with our technology.
I don't know what it was.
And I said, Clint does not love me anymore. And what did you say?
I said, Mark, he's gave up on me. He will not respond to my texts, my calls. He won't take my voicemails.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's blocked me.
Yeah.
He won't even go to voicemail.
I thought he blocked me too, but it was like, no, I love you. What are you talking about? And we looked and said, oh my God. But anytime we catch up, we always have that connection. There's some people that you meet in your life that you just, you talk to them and they're nice and they're cool, but there's some people that you connect with and you don't have to talk to them for weeks or a month or even a year and you pick up where you left off. That's me and this brother right here. And you didn't even know that, see? Your dad and I got something here.
We got a chemistry.
Yes. Yeah. But we're going to go back to, 5 people. Okay, tell us about this family you have.
Man, it's a busy family. So I married into softball. Let's start there. I married into softball. My wife, 2-time All-American softball player. Wow. Her sister, Division I softball player, and the whole lineage on that side of the family softball. On my side, it was going to go the football route. So I married into softball. That was an interesting journey. But we had 2 girls first, right? Mm-hmm. So we had 2 girls first. So guess what sport they played, right? They started out in basketball because that's what she did in high school, right? Mm-hmm. Basketball and softball. So I've got two girls, one that's just committed to play softball at Oklahoma Baptist University, and she just signed her letter of intent. A 15-year-old who wants to one-up sister and play D1. We'll see how that works out. And then I've got this young man who has visions of being a football player. So 2 girls and a boy, and then a beautiful wife that keeps me straight and narrow. And then I guess we would say 2 others. We have 2 dogs that also keep us crazy busy. But I'll tell you what, Mark, family of 5 with 3 kids that play select travel sports, it's a busy household. Every night is something. Every night.
How do you manage that on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? Because you have different sports, obviously, different age groups. And then how do you manage it between you and your wife? Do you both go to different places? Do you go to the same places with your children, or?
Yeah, let me answer that first by saying you only get to be dad once. And so that's got to be a priority, right? When I was early in my career, I traveled a lot. I wasn't home a lot. And at a certain point in my career, as part of this calling towards academia that I had to become a professor, I realized I'm missing out on a lot, and so every chance that I get now to go to one of their events, coach them, be at their games, I do it because you only get to do it once in your life.
Wow.
You only get to do it once. Once it's gone, it's gone. Then you become grandpa, hopefully, right? But you only get to be dad once, and I was missing out on that. So the short answer to that question is yes. We have to split it up. Fortunately, we've got a 17-year-old now; she can drive. We're anxiously awaiting the day our 15-year-old turns 16, so she can drive. But now we're back down to 2. So the oldest one's been a lot of chauffeuring, but we still chauffeur the 2 younger. So yeah, we go different directions a lot.
And this is interesting. You talked about career paths, and you obviously did corporate America like me, and you realized, okay, I'm spending a lot of time away from home. How did you decide on academia as that being the way to balance it all for you, and for you to have that opportunity to be close to your family, be able to educate and inspire and empower folks, and also be with your wife now on a more consistent basis? How did you decide on academia? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. It has a lot to do with I think the ups and downs of the corporate world. In my generation, and I think it still kind of continues somewhat to this today, the average career path or career tenure at any given company is about 3 to 5 years. By the time you've established that 3 to 5 mark, a few different things happen. We hit a recession, the company's bought out, there goes into some sort of another sort of challenge. There's a management team change or whatever. And so, once you kind of achieve that manager level, director level, you start to see lots of ups and downs in terms of layoffs and restructuring and whatnot. When you start to get a larger family, that becomes a challenge. I started to do a lot of work with universities where we would bring them on to do research for us, and that sort of stuff. But again, I love to learn. And so anytime I had a chance to take an exec ed type program, or some sort of a class while I was working, I would jump on it. And every time I found I was in that classroom, sort of experience, whether I was going to a campus or we were bringing the school to our corporate headquarters, man, I just really enjoyed it, and it was just part of that kind of just tingling in the back of my, that sort of thing ringing in my ears saying, you should really think about this. And I had my mom also saying, you would make a great professor, and so when you just got all these things coming at you, you got that. But the thing I love about academia is, unless if you're good at what you do, of course, in any industry, you're pretty secure. But in academia, if you're a good educator, security's pretty good. Security's pretty good. And when you get to my age and you got a family of 5, security's pretty important. And so that was kind of the cherry on top for me. So yeah.
Now UNT is a very special place, Frisco campus especially. How did that come about, and what is your role there? We talked about your title, but what is your role there on a daily basis, and how did that even come about?
Yeah, so University of Texas, of course, primarily originally located in Denton, Texas, which is north of Dallas. Frisco now is the fastest growing city in the country. The county, Collin County, just explosive growth with the relocation of the Dallas Cowboys there, Toyota North America moving there, and many, many other large firms that are going there. I think there's like 60 Fortune 1000 firms now looking at the Frisco area. But anyway, with this sort of explosive growth, the city of Frisco wanted a R1 research university, so a research university partnership, because they saw that sort of opportunity for research support, technology transfer, whatever, but also the need to develop talent and a talent pipeline for all these companies that were going to be moving in, right? Because companies look at a new area, they're like, hey, that looks like a great place to set up with geography. But now tell me about people I can hire. And when I move my families there, where are their kids going to go to school, right? That sort of thing. So UNT became, kind of a target. I think there were a few other schools that were looked at, University of Texas, Dallas, and SMU, and the others that are in the area. But UNT Frisco is a bit of a different sort of concept. It's kind of a non-traditional university model. We don't have dormitories. We are trying. A lot of us kind of the mission there is we think there are a lot of things that are broken in higher ed that could be improved. We've become very regimented in the way higher ed is run, across the entire system, and we think there's some things to improve on. And so we're trying to work on improving those things, which we could talk about here later. But in terms of me, we already lived in Frisco. I was working at Southwest Airlines. I moved there from another company here locally, and so again, just kind of one of those God things for me. It just the opportunity opened up as I graduated. Had lots of different offers around from great schools, but when University of Frisco, UNT Frisco came calling, it was didn't have to move, whatnot. It was right there. It was local. But there was something else that was special about UNT that was different than all these other schools I looked at. First of all, UNT is majority minority. So more than half the students are minorities. The other thing that was interesting to me about UNT was that about a third of the students are first generation low-income students, right? First generation college. And, I had taught at Oklahoma State and TCU, and some other places. And I noticed in some of these kind of other larger universities, especially the private university setting, where there's a higher tuition rate, higher cost of attendance. There's a lot of white collar students there, right? With students from white collar, families. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are some fantastic students at those schools. But when I had a chance to be an adjunct at Denton, at UNT Denton, and I started to notice something pretty quick, and it was this, Mark, that when you're dealing with a student who's first generation, who's worked their way into school, right? Found a way. They found a way out of the hood, right? And they were at the top of their class, or at least enough to get into college. And in many cases are working full-time and going to school full-time, maybe single parents, The grit factor of the students at UNT are exponentially more, double, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times more than the students at these other schools. In fact, I would say put them side by side, give them a project and tell them to complete it under pressure. The UNT student will outshine every single time because they know how to win. They know how to survive. Wow. Their skills are incredible. They sometimes are a little rough around the edges. When you come out of the hood, you may not know how to go to the nice, expensive dinner, those sorts of things. That's one of the things, Mark, that attracted me about UNT is we focus on not only the core education, which you would expect to get out of a degree, but we also work on the soft skills and the other things necessary to be successful. When I saw all those things, man, that's what attracted me to UNT.
Wow. Well, tell us about the transition in terms of taking the skill sets that you learned in corporate America, all the things that your parents taught you, that you're teaching and instilling your children. How do you bring that to academia and to merge that with a group of, well, even if it's not a minority community, but how do you bring those skill sets, those soft skills, into academia? Because unfortunately, a lot of people in academia are not thinking about soft skills. We're just thinking, I want to get my paycheck and leave, or I just want to PowerPoint you to death. Right. So how did you go about bringing that in there, incorporating that, but also being at a school that kind of celebrates that?
Yeah.
Because you don't see too many schools that really embrace that. Other than the HBCUs, you see a lot of that at the HBCUs, but typically at predominantly white schools, you don't see majority. That's minority. That's number one. Right. But number two, how is UNT Frisco? Why did they create a model such as that?
Yeah. Well, so I've been to lots of schools. I've attended lots of classes, had lots of different types of professors. And when I would sit through those boring lectures, in the lecture hall, sometimes it wasn't even the professor. It was the TA that was teaching it, right. And it was the professor's slides, but the TA's reading the slides, right. And I'm like, you just gave me the slides. Oh, my man, I can't stand it. So I realized I learned over time the kind of professor I didn't want to be. Right. Does that make sense? So I didn't want to be those types of professors. But your question is, how did I bring industry into the classroom? For me, so I teach business, entrepreneurship, strategy, problem solving, those sorts of things. For me, I want to teach students things that they can use, right? Mm-hmm. I want to be that professor that when they're asked, when they're 40, 50, 60, who was the one professor that made an impact on you that they say Dr. Purtell, Mm-hmm. So how do I do that? I bring the world into the classroom, you know, whether it's bringing in CEOs or C-level folks from very large organizations. You know, we just brought the chief commercial officer from Microsoft into the classroom. We brought some NFL players into the classroom. We've brought some folks from, you know, that grew up in the hood from broken families, lived in a trailer, now multimillionaire entrepreneurs, alumni from UNT, you know, like to bring positive influence into the classroom, bring the war stories into the classroom for inspiration, you know. But I do one thing extra. So before these speakers arrive in the classroom, whatever the topic is, whoever the speaker is, I have the students do a little research on that person, prepare 2, you know, good questions in advance. And then after the person's done speaking, we'll spend 30 minutes to an hour in dialogue where they will ask any question that they want to ask. Usually it's about getting a job. You know, how am I successful? What would you do in this situation? What advice would you have? And that's okay. But what I've found from, you know, the folks that we've talked to, you know, that I brought in the classroom and kind of debriefed with after, you know, they say, man, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I've been a guest speaker before at university. But man, your classroom's a little bit different. You know, those kids humbled me. They asked me questions I didn't expect to be asked, you know, and in some cases they stumped me. It wasn't a hard question. I wasn't, you know, prepared for that real of a question, you know?
Right.
Again, I want things that they can use, that they can take out of here and do something with. As I tell them, I don't expect you to memorize a definition like the book has it, but I do expect you to get it. You know, at the end of the day, can you talk about it? Do you get it? Whatever it is that we're talking about. If they can do that, they're going to do fine in my class.
So tell me about, because you and I talked about the way the projects that the students have and how they go about educating the students. And, you know, you have a community of young people now that are really connected to the esports and video games. How do you incorporate that into the classroom, especially when you're sitting in Frisco, where it's considered the Silicon Valley for esports and video games? How do you incorporate that into your classroom presently? And where do you see this going in terms of the video game industry, in terms of the academic side of it?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of the influencers that are out there today, the older generation, our generation, you know, I think our generation has become those people that we kind of grew up with, you know. Man, those people that are on video games all the time, you know, they just sit around, they do nothing, you know, and they don't talk anymore. They text each other, they snap each other, they do this, that, and the other. You know, but they also said that about us when we got our cell phones. You know, they said that about us when we stopped, you know, going and riding our bikes and all that good stuff. And we turned out okay.
Yeah,
we
did. Yeah,
we turned out okay. You know, it's interesting to me that, you know, our military looks at gamers as possible leaders. There's different types of leadership now, right? There's different ways of socializing. You know, although it's a different connectedness, the connectedness that we have, the access to information, you know, that we have. But what's really interesting about the gaming industry for me is gamification of everything, making things interesting through competition, through challenge. So in my class, especially with our design students that we have at UNT Frisco, you know, we look at design philosophy, designing things for humans. How do we make it challenging? How do we make it interesting? How do we solve a problem? So right now, we have a partner every semester. This semester, our partner is Sam's Club. We're helping them with some of their innovation topics, right? Why does Sam's Club want to work with us? Well, because they want to work with this generation that we have that's in college now. These students are not only the future customers, but also the future employees, the future leaders within Sam's Club, right? But you know, what are the students interested in? They're interested in looking at ways of creating user experience, right? User interface. But they also appreciate that it may not be so much about the game itself, but more around the marketing and the commerce that's generated from that industry, right? And the things that can be done with esports beyond just playing the game and winning the game, but the millions and millions of dollars, the thousands and millions of followers, and the access to that industry, to that customer base, consumer base for influence, for future purchases. And it gets our students excited, you know, and we try to bring that into the classroom every chance we can.
What do you see the esports and the video game industry incorporating into education? Where do you see the future for education? Do you feel that Educators need to be more understanding, like the provost to the deans to the provost to the president. They need to understand this juggernaut, or can they survive in the next 5 to 10 years without incorporating some level of esports into their curriculum?
I don't think they can. I think if they become too stagnant, just like any dinosaur, they become extinct. I think communication is changing in a post-COVID world where we've got Zoom, and other sorts of conferencing technologies. I think what we're going to see is a movement where, just like a video gamer can get on PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live, we're going to see that in industry. We're going to see that in the classroom as well. I think what we're going to see, though, is a move from a sort of, I would call it two-dimensional, where you're on a screen and you see a face and you're talking in a Zoom type conference or Microsoft Teams type conference. Where we're headed, and I think, the gaming industry in many cases is leading us towards this, is more virtual reality, augmented reality. So the classroom of tomorrow is going to be like putting on a HoloLens, sitting in wherever you are, but when you put on the HoloLens, you're in the classroom with your fellow students and the professor, and you can look around and it's just like you're in that classroom. Right. It's a very different experience. That stuff comes from the gaming industry.
Right.
The innovation comes from gaming and the military, right? I think the military takes a lot from gaming as well.
Yes.
But I think, again, that gamification of things, including the classroom, including academia, I think that's where it's at. So, yeah, if the professors don't embrace it, let me tell you one thing, Mark. The thing I found, the students like going to classes where there's some sort of technology involved, where they can interact somehow, whether you've got real-time voting, real-time polling, right? So you ask a question and you ask the students to answer, and the poll pops up on the screen and you can see people, real live, or hey, type in the words that you think of when I say this, and a word cloud starts to evolve right there on screen, and they can all see it, they can all engage. That sort of engagement, man, I'd rather much rather be in a class like that than hearing the Bueller, sort of model. So again, the professors that don't embrace, the schools that don't embrace technology in the classroom, I think they're going to get left behind.
Would you say that your fellow professors at UNT are like that? And if they are not like that, where could professors that may not have that skill set, where could they learn that?
That's a fantastic question. So I think academia as a whole is a bit behind. I do think UNT Frisco, I think in particular, because we talk about it all the time. We're constantly challenging each other and talking to each other about what are we using in the classroom, what could we do better. Hey, I saw this, you might try this, whatever, trying to get some free trials and then subscribing over time, whatever. But that's a challenge right now, I think, for the industry as a whole. There's not a great source of information. So for what is out there's so many companies starting up. I was just asked to join the board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, an element of that is focused on pulling that information together for professors. But it's hard, man. There's hundreds,
I'm sorry,
if not thousands.
I got to stop you for a second. You see how he just casually threw that in there? He was asked to be on the board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he just casually said...
A division of it.
It doesn't matter. Bill and Melinda Gates. And he just casually... That's why this man is so dope. That's why I love this cat. He just casually mentioned, I'm Bill and Melinda Gates. I'm on the board, But, I'm proud of you, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But, I think we've got to do things like that to help folks out. Because there's just too much information out there. It's hard to find it,
Yes.
It's hard to find it. And then when you do find it, unless you know somebody who else has used it, it's like, man, I don't know if I take a shot at this. Not because the students are going to grade me at the end, so I don't want to take a risk on it. Yes. So again, things like that with the Gates Foundation is doing, and other institutions or other organizations like that, I think will help. It's just a matter of time, though. If we don't follow the revolution and stay ahead of it, we will get left behind.
Yes.
We absolutely will.
Yes, and I can attest. I was in Bob's class the other day with his graduate students, and he has a class on how to prepare students to be the kind of manage, working in the sports and entertainment industry as a consultant. That's the name of the class. Yeah. And I'm like, what? And the students are graduate students, but they're consulting with the Dallas Mavericks and the Mark Cubans of the world and the Dallas Stars, and they're providing feedback on what they need to do to improve their business. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then I'm hearing about what you're doing in your class. I'm looking forward to coming to your class soon. Absolutely. Because, again, I get a chance to be immersed into that space. And it's just been a pleasure talking to you. We could talk for days, man. And unfortunately, we can't talk for days. I know you got to get little man out to the football. And I just want to say thank you for coming
Absolutely.
and joining me today. Maybe next time we can do it out on campus.
Absolutely.
Because you have that podcast studio.
We sure do.
In Frisco.
We sure do.
If people want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My email address is clinton.purtell. I'm sure they'll see my name through your podcast, but clinton.purtell@unt.edu.
Okay.
You can connect with me either way there. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn, Snapchat, and all that good stuff as well. You connect with me through that, Facebook. But I welcome people to reach out if they have questions about getting an education, coming to UNT. Whatever the question is, I welcome it.
Okay. Do you have anything you want to say to the parents out there that want to send their kid to UNT, or even just anyone out there in terms of just the knowledge that you've shared? You've shared so much today, but is there anything you want to say that's meaningful to you that you want them to know?
I would say this. I talk to so many students and parents these days. There's a lot of misinformation out there about that college education, there's no value anymore. I hear a lot of that. I talk to a lot of students that say, man, what I see and hear, I don't need to go to college. I do it on my own. I talk to so many young men and women who have grand ideas to be the next Damon Johns, the next Elon Musk, and whatnot. But they don't understand the basic blocking and tackling of what it takes to become an entrepreneur, for example, or a business person, for example. And as I start to talk to them, I challenge them on some of the things they see the world, they perceive the world to be. They quickly understand that maybe they don't have it all figured out. I would say, if you're questioning whether or not I should go to college, take another look. Talk to somebody like Dr. Mark or me, and just make sure you have all the right information, not the wrong information. College isn't for everybody, that's for sure, but it's for a lot of people. I will say that. Yeah. The second thing I'll say is, not every college is for everybody, but there is a college out there for everybody, right? You got to find the right place, the right home. You need to find a place like UNT. It's not just about getting you in the door. It's about getting you through, right? And has the resources and support to get you through. So, do your research, find the right place, find a home. There's a lot of people are concerned with how am I going to pay for it? Yes, college is expensive, but they're not all crazy Ivy League prices, so find the right one that's a good fit. Get the education. It's a springboard into opportunity, right? Take advantage of opportunity. Don't slap opportunity down. Take advantage of opportunity. And then the final thing I would say is, aspire to be what you and I aspire to be, right? Everybody out there, has the ability to be an influencer like you and me, right? Make a positive impact. But people tend to, listen to those with kind of some street cred or some cred like, you and I have developed. You got to work on that. You got to build that, But once you've put your mind to it and your heart to it, you can do it. So I would say the final thing is, have a plan to give back. Have a plan to give back. It's not all about me, I, right?
Yes.
At some point, it's about us, right? How do we give back? So that'd be my final thought.
Final thought, Dr. Clint Purtell, my man, UNT Frisco. I don't even know what to call you anymore, but I just appreciate you, brother, for being here. Love how you're young man. You turned into a great young man over here. He's been patient and sitting here. He's not fidgeting around. He gets it. My wife, obviously, she likes to hear me talk. So, but it's been a great time here. We're gonna have Clint back on, Dr. Purtell back on here. I think we're probably gonna go up to UNT Frisco. So Sia and Aaron, we're gonna go up to UNT Frisco the next time. They've got a great podcast studio there. Gage, you get ready. We're getting ready. So again, you've been watching and listening to Dr. Mark's Masterclass podcast here on MAP Esports Podcast Network. Thanks again to the media enterprise, the innovation media enterprise, Sia and Aaron. Thank you for holding me down always, Gage. Man on the 1 and 2s. We're going to teach you about the 1 and 2s, young man. Turntables, okay? Yeah, so we got to make sure he understands that jargon. And also our fearless leader, Jacob Miles. Thank you so much for creating this amazing network. And sweetheart, I know you said that you didn't want to do this, and I will never make you do something you don't want to do. But I know you're smiling now. So we got to have you.
To support you.
Yeah, you're going to support me?
Yes.
Okay. But I want to make sure you say goodbye to them in Mandarin. Before we do that, though, I want to say to everyone that you control 3 things. You can't control other people. You can control yourself. You control what you think, what you do, and what you say. That's it. What you think, what you do, and what you say. And on that note, this is Dr. Mark's Masterclass Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark Williams, and this is my beautiful wife, Peru. Tell everybody what's up, say goodbye in Mandarin.
希望大家呢都有喜欢今天节目，那跟大家说再见。
谢谢你，再见，
谢谢大家，
再见，
再见，谢谢大家观赏今天节目。
And on that note, peace. We out.